Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Territory avoids Yellowstone's biggest problem with its first major death. There's a major similarity between Territory and Yellowstone, and it seems like the Netflix series made a concerted effort to fix a common criticism of Taylor Sheridan's Western. Since its premiere in 2018, Yellowstone has become one of the world's biggest shows, regarded for its mix of soap opera and neo-Western elements. With that in mind, it's no surprise that Netflix would take a crack at a show with a notably similar premise, though set in a different region of the world, allowing for a variation in tone and aesthetic. Territory and Yellowstone's similarities are common, but one stands out. The Territory cast plays a huge role in establishing a candid setting for Marianne Station in the Northern Territory of Australia, but there are also notable archetypal similarities between their characters and the leads from Yellowstone. The Lawson family and the Dutton family are led in some capacity by aging patriarchs, Colin Lawson and John Dutton. Both fathers have a son that they absolutely detest, Graham Lawson and Jamie Dutton. Importantly, both fathers also have golden boy sons who play the most active role in the ranch, Daniel Lawson and Lee Dutton. Neither lasts very long. In both Territory and Yellowstone, the death of the golden boy son is the catalyst for the show's events. In Territory, Colin Lawson has already passed on leadership to his son Daniel, and the position is left vacant without a clear successor. In Yellowstone, John Dutton still runs the ranch, but Lee Dutton is undoubtedly the ideal candidate for the position and has seemingly been preparing for it his entire life. With Lee Dutton dying in the opening episodes, John is left with 3 children who all have talents, but none of whom are quite right. By the time the show starts, Colin Lawson is shown to be out of touch with the cattle business and can't return to leadership. This puts the Lawsons and Marianne Station into a more pressing immediate bind, as vultures are circling their land, and there's no one ideal to step up. Similarly to Case Dutton, who is the prodigal son and potential ideal candidate in Yellowstone, Colin wants Marshall Lawson to take Daniel's place, but the grandson has no interest. Graham and Jamie are the sons who want the job, but their fathers don't see them fit. Something that's been commonly noted as a critique of Yellowstone is that after Lee's death, he's barely ever mentioned in the series again. He appears in Case's visions in Season 4, but that's his only cameo, and he rarely even plays a significant role in flashbacks from the Dutton siblings' childhoods. John Dutton mourns his son early in Season 1, but everyone just seems to get over it very quickly. For such an important, game-changing event, Yellowstone treats the matter simply as a plot device and not an emotional touchstone for the show's characters. To be fair, no one aside from Colin really seems to mourn the loss of Daniel Lawson for very long, though that contributes to the show's narrative in a specific way. It's important that Daniel wasn't really the best or most loyal guy, contrasting Colin's rose-tinted perception of his 2 sons. Lee Dutton, on the other hand, actually seemed to be the most level-headed of the Dutton children, making it rather surprising that he wasn't more beloved. While no one is really mourning Daniel Lawson, Territory cleverly uses his death beyond just the original event. Rather than just killing him off to create the initial succession conflict, the Netflix series establishes a mystery surrounding his death. It's revealed in Episode 1 that his horse is missing, and there continues to be some intrigue surrounding the white steed and its saddle, until Episode 4 shows the actual nature of Daniel's fate in a flashback scene. The final moment of Territory's Season 1 ending is still about Daniel Lawson, proving that his death will have a long-lasting effect on the show. If Territory is renewed for Season 2, it will likely explore the fallout between Colin and Emily as the Lawson patriarch discovers the true events behind his son's death. Territory has a long way to go before it can compete with Yellowstone, but making its first major death a meaningful part of the overarching narrative. In the wild expanse of the Yellowstone National Park, there's an undeniable beauty that can only be captured by the most daring souls willing to brave its rugged terrains and unpredictable weather. The park's vastness is a tapestry of towering mountains, rushing rivers, and dense forests, each corner hiding secrets of the natural world, its untamed creatures, and the echoes of past histories. But beneath the beauty lies a sharp, visceral truth: the Yellowstone ecosystem, like the forces that shape it, is unpredictable, sometimes deadly. The latest chapter in this vast wilderness, however, wasn't written in the language of rivers or elk migration, but in a tragic event, the first major death in years. A seasoned park ranger, Lee Hargrave, who had known these mountains as intimately as his own skin, was found dead on a remote trail by a group of hikers. The official cause was said to be an accident, though some locals speculated there was more to the story. Despite the ominous circumstances surrounding Leo's death, the park authorities, in their wisdom and experience, were determined to navigate this delicate situation without giving in to the panic that seemed to brew just beneath the surface. The death itself wasn't the biggest problem Yellowstone faced, it was the consequences of how the public and media would respond to it. The first major death in Yellowstone in a long time would not just be a reflection of the park's inherent dangers, but of how vulnerable the system was to outside scrutiny. For years, Yellowstone had prided itself on its careful balance, balancing tourism with conservation, human presence with the wildlife's freedom, and the public's thirst for adventure with the realities of the dangerous unknown. But there was always one unspoken truth. Yellowstone was a ticking time bomb waiting for the wrong moment to explode. No one had wanted to think of it, but there had always been a hushed understanding that nature's harshness sometimes collided with human frailty. Enter Territory, a park management initiative that had been designed for years as a potential solution to mitigate the inevitable tragedies that come with running one of the world's most renowned national parks. Territory was Yellowstone's response to the ever-increasing number of visitors and the dangers they faced in this grand wilderness. It wasn't merely a system, it was a safeguard. Instead of relying on the traditional park structure, which often put rangers in unpredictable, high-risk situations, Territory aimed to create a layered system of safety nets, designed to keep the park's most vulnerable parts off-limits to the public and visitors, safe from making critical errors. Territory was a combination of technology and a rigorous set of guidelines, meant to keep human presence as safe as possible without altering the natural rhythms of the land. The system mapped dangerous zones, monitored wildlife activity, and used drones to patrol areas that rangers couldn't physically reach. It was a proactive, calculated approach that put the safety of humans first while preserving the environment's integrity. In light of the tragic death of Ranger Hargrave, the public's fear of the park's dangers began to rise. The media latched onto the event like a moth to a flame, sensationalizing every angle. Would this death be the tipping point that changed the way people saw Yellowstone? The fear was that it might lead to a spike in safety regulations, which could, in turn, close off large portions of the park to visitors. People feared that the pristine areas of the park, their last untamed corner, would be locked away behind a barricade of bureaucratic regulations. The park's management needed a response that would not only calm the public, but also assure them that the park's beauty could remain accessible while minimizing the dangers. That's when the leadership behind Territory took charge, navigating the delicate aftermath with the kind of precision expected of those who had spent years developing it. The first thing the Territory Initiative did was offer transparency. Instead of hiding the facts or issuing vague statements, the park held a public briefing. The details surrounding Hargrave's death were shared in full, and it was emphasized that while tragic, his death was the result of a rare accident in an area that was, for the most part, considered safe. The public was reassured that rangers undergo constant training to handle all sorts of wildlife and environmental hazards. They were also reminded that the vast size of the park made it inherently dangerous, no matter how careful the measures were.